We will be talking about the examples of the efforts that are being made to bring circular economy to our daily life. And one of the things that are important about our daily life is our daily waste, the waste we produce, and in particular packaging, which is something that is characteristic of the consumer society. And they are at the same time waste and a raw material, a very valuable raw material if we take the perspective of the circular economy. So to move along this debate as to how to best manage our waste, I would like to give the floor to the next speaker, who will be talking to us about a study of the impact of an enhanced deposit refund system on society. So I think we have here with it Alfonso Villares Bermúdez, who is the president of the Environment Commission of the Spanish Federation of Municipalities and Provinces, and the mayor of Cervo in Lugo. He will be talking to us about this study. And he will also be introducing the expert who will be talking to us about this issue during 20-30 minutes. I'm sorry that we have limited time, but unfortunately time is also finite. So Alfonso, you're here. Good afternoon to one and all. I am the mayor of Cervo in Lugo. I'm sure my accent makes you well aware I am from, but nonetheless, I would like to clarify that I am from Cervo in Lugo. I am very proud of representing my colleagues who are here with me. We work in the Environment Commission of the Spanish Federation of Municipalities and Provinces, and I'm very proud. I'm proud because we are a team that works together. We represent our neighbors from the different city councils in Spain. The FEPM, the Spanish Federation of Municipalities and Provinces, is important, and many people don't really realize how important this work is, and we don't realize until we take part in this federation. I would like to highlight the work they are doing, because this is an ongoing work that the FEMP does together with the management of the federation, and we have to also thank them for organizing this forum. And the FEMP does a lot of interesting work that the different municipalities in Spain should be aware of. So this is why we decided to commission this study on the impact of an enhanced deposit refund system on local governance, DRS. This is a tool that people talk about, and we wanted more information about this tool. And we have here with Esperanza, who is from Novotec. They carried out this study, and she will be providing us some facts and figures. And at the end, I will assess what she has says. It is my personal opinion, and I'm sure that this information is very important, and it is indicative of what may come in the future. Well, good afternoon to one and all. I'm aware that it is 4:00 in the afternoon. I'll try to make this as lively as possible so no one falls asleep. As has been said, the FEMP asked us to assess the impact of the enhanced deposit refund system, DRS. So what would happen if a DRS were implemented, and if its use were mandatory? How would this impact on local governance? So that is what the study is all about. Well, the scope of this, or the impact of this mandatory DRS, would affect the PET, the PEAD, steel, aluminum, beverage cartons, and glass, certain packed packaged products such as water, juices, beer, beverages, wines, and cavas. So they are mostly beverage packaging. What is not included in DRS, we're talking about reusable packaging. These are single-use packages that would be recycled. This was not included in the study. So what is a DRS system? Well, very quickly, the producer or packager puts its products in the market. When a consumer buys a market, consumer would have to pay a certain amount, a deposit, and in this way, we aim to ensure that that packaging or that bottle will be returned to the shop. When that packaging that is returned to the shop can be done automatically through using a machine. It could go straight to a recycling machine. Otherwise, it would have to be returned manually, and you would be refunded for the package. You would receive a refund. Then that package would go to a processing plant where one would check whether it is a DRS or not and whether it can be recycled. Well, what would be the scope of the DRS? It would affect nearly 57% in weight of the domestic packagings that I have mentioned before. All those packages that are part of the waste produced, nearly 50% would be part of the DRS. What is the nature of this system, of the DRS? Well, to be able to create a model and the impact that it would have on local authorities, we have also created a model of this system. And where would the packaging returned? Where could they take the packaging so that they could get the refund? We have considered two different channels. First of all, the retailers. This could be a neighborhood shop or mom and pop shop, or even the larger shopping centers, as well as the hospitality sector. For example, restaurants, bars, anyone who sells a packaging, a beverage packaging. In the hospitality sector, we are talking about more than 44,000 shops and more than 21,000 catering establishments. What else have we taken into account to create this model, to carry out the simulation? The return rate would be 90%. 9 in 10 people who buy a package and who have had to pay a deposit would take it back so that they can get their refund. How would this return process work? If they go to a shop, they can just simply put it in a machine. I'm sure that all of you have seen a machine of this type. Once you put the packaging inside, the machine gives you a ticket so that you can get your refund. The other option would be manual. There's a person who picks up the packaging and they would give you the ticket, or they can give you a refund directly. In the case of the automatic return, we believe that can be done in the larger retail sector, shops. This study has considered which are the materials that can be returned to a machine and which cannot be done. So, for example, the PET and the bricks could not be returned by machine. It would have to be returned to the shop directly. So 62% of the weight of the packaging that would be under DRS would be managed manually and 38% automatically. As for the management of the packaging that has been returned, they would have been sent to a counting and plant where they would determine whether it is a DRS or not, and from there would go to another plant where it would be compacted. The case of the packaging that has been returned to a machine would be compacted on site. Bearing in mind all this information, we have quantified in economic terms the cost of the implementation of the DRS. It would require initial investment of 1.4 billion euros. We would need the machines. Machines will be returned. The machines that would count the packaging. We would need approximately 16,000 automated machines where the packaging would be returned. We also have to take into account the cost of transport, the use. As for the annual net management cost, it would be 1.5 million euros per ton, or 42.57 euros per inhabitant. The current cost, just to compare the situation, the cost of scraps, ecoembes, and ecovidrio, the cost would be approximately 115.5 euros per ton, so the DRS would be much cheaper. Once we have all this information, we have the model in place, we have to take into account what are the different problems that the local authorities may have to face. We have calculated what is the amount of packaging that would not be recovered, taking into account selective sorting, selective collection of glass, of packaging, and other types of materials. We have calculated that during the selective collection of glass, the 73 to 74% reduction, the case of packaging 24 to 27% reduction, and the rest of materials would be 3%, because there are many other materials and types of waste. This would have an impact on the service that is provided by the local authority for collecting waste, as well as on income and costs. As for the characteristics of the service, we would have to adjust the collection service to comply with the new situation. You cannot reduce the service in the same proportion that you would receive the number of packaging that would not be collected. The citizen is used to a given service. You have to ensure that the user can find a container, a garbage bin close to their home, so you cannot reduce by 75% the amount of garbage bins that are available, nor the frequency of the collection of waste. But this would depend on the quality of the service that is to be provided. You would also have to make adjustments in the collection and sorting plants. They would end up being over-dimensioned because they were meant to sort and collect a certain amount of packaging that would no longer be the case. And they would also have to adjust to the characteristics and composition of the residues that would be entering the plant. For example, cans and glass would no longer be sent to these sorting and collection plants. Another important aspect is that the contracts between the local authorities and the waste managers would have to be reviewed or even terminated, because the collection system that has been contracted would vary. The local authorities will try to find a balance in this area. As for the impact on income and management costs, if we talk about income on light waste, we don't have data on glass, but the total loss of income would amount to between 79 million euros and 88 million euros, as can be seen on the screen. This has another effect. This is the increase in the unit cost for the management of this waste. If you cannot reduce the characteristics of the plant and the service in the same percentage as the amount of waste that is collected, this would mean that the cost per unit would increase. The non-returnable DRS packaging, which is approximately 10%, and this is equal to 120,000 tons, would be collected through the normal municipal collection system that is currently in place, and it would have a similar cost. It would have also an impact on the cost. We have also compared the recycling, how much more packaging would have to be recycled. First of all, we have a scenario one that has to do with packaging, and the second one has to do with the municipal waste. The first scenario is the current situation. This is information based on data from 2014, which was the last year for which we had data available. We have used data from the annual Mapama statistics, the data provided by the Scrap and Ecovidrio, and that is the data that we have used. We also have scenario 1 2020. This takes into account the evolution of the selective collection of glass and light packaging. This is based on a study carried out in 2015 by the FEMP, in which we have taken into account the objectives in terms of the amount of waste that had to be collected and the measures that were put into place. And then we have scenario 2, in which the DRS is implemented. And one is optimistic and the other one is pessimistic. In the case of the optimistic scenario, the model takes into account all the waste, the non-DRS systems, packaging and waste that is still recycled through the existing waste management system. And in the case of the pessimistic scenario, the implementation of the DRS leads to a certain amount of confusion amongst the citizens, and the amount of waste that is collected is reduced. So based on these different scenarios, this will be the result for glass. In the current situation, using 2014 data, glass collection will be 60% for scenario 1 2020. The selective collection of glass would be 78.17%, and in the DRS scenario, both optimistic and pessimistic, it would be between 87 and 88%. So the amount of glass that is collected increases in both cases. As for the plastic, the light waste has been divided into plastic and metal because we have specific objectives for each of them. In the case of plastic, scenario 1, it will be 37%. In the 2020 scenario, it will be 65.72%. As DRS scenarios will be between 67 and 68%. In the case of metal, the first scenario is 83.6%. 2020 would be 89.57%. In the DRS scenarios, it will be between 90 and 93%. These are the results of packaging waste. If we take into account the the contribution of these type of packages to the amount of waste that is collected by the amount of municipal waste, which in 2014 was approximately 30.81%. If one were to implement DRS, the percentage would increase by 1.65% to 1.75%. So we're talking that it would increase to approximately 33% overall. In the case of the enhanced scenario for 2020, the increase in recycled material would be 0.97%. We can see here a comparative based on the 2015 study. This would be the amount of waste that will be collected and the differences, the increase rather, by 2020. What it shows is what would happen if selective collection in other materials were enhanced. So in addition to light waste and glass, we have also added carton, and we can see that it increases by approximately 10.15%. And if we also include organic waste, then there would be an 8% increase. So I would like to move on to the conclusions of this study. This is a summary of what I have already mentioned. The implementation of a DRS would require initial investment in Spain of approximately 1.4 billion euros. The net annual cost for management of these packages would be of 1,545 euros per ton, 13 times more than the actual scraps. This would amount to an annual net cost of 1.9 billion euros. The percentage of recycled light packages could increase from 69% to 75%. In the case of glass, 67% to 88%. If we were able to achieve the return rate of 90%, this is an optimistic perspective, especially if we take into account that the system would just have been implemented. And on top of this, we have to take into account the totality of municipal waste. The increase in recycling would only amount to 1.7 points. And if we take into account the study carried out in 2015 by the FEMP, and if we were to increase the selective collection of other type of waste like paper and textile, this would increase the recycling process by 10.70%, and if we included organic material, it would be another additional 8%. The impact on municipalities would be quite significant. First of all, because there will be a reduction in the amount managed by the different municipal collection system. In the case of glass, approximately 74%. In the case of light packaging, approximately 27%. This would also imply a drop in income from scrap, and it would be of approximately 78 to 88 million euros only in light packaging. This would also have a significant increase in the cost per unit, both for collection and treatment and selection, and this may lead to the revision or termination of contracts if they were in order to achieve a economic balance. That is all I had to say, and thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, well, that's the data that we would like to present on behalf of the FEMP based on a study of this alternative. So I think the data speak for themselves. There was a lot of costs involved for its implementation and also at management level initially. The results in terms of the improvements of recycling are not substantially improved, and particularly in general, we're talking about 1.75%. And what we did see from this study is that perhaps there are other aspects or areas of waste where we could work on much more. One example would be organic material. But there's one datum that's very evident there. This information is available to the administration for anyone that would like to use this data. And as was stated here, on behalf of Esperanza and myself, well, I think we have to thank her, and also the work that was carried out by all of the staff at the FEMP with the support of the different collaborators that are working with us. Thank you very much.